One of the benefits of being kind of old and wise, and I consider 53 these days to be old and wise and actually increasingly unemployable, is you can kind of look back over one's career and say, actually, that was pretty interesting. So it's a bit about me. One, I'm not an investor in JobPost. I'm not a shareholder. I have absolutely nothing to do with this product. I just happen to like it. That's my kind of background, really boring. Today what I do is I build career sites, sit with companies and help them understand actually the candidate experience is a journey. Candidate experience is one of the longest things a candidate can go through. It goes from attraction to onboarding. We get so carried away with the bit at the start around attraction. It can get screwed up when you're doing your psychometric testing. It can get screwed up when you're doing your online videoing. It's an incredibly complex thing. So I do a lot of work in this particular area. I run a rather large blog called The Recruitment Buzz. Actually, we've aggregated over 7,000 sources of recruitment and HR information in the world. And I have a team of journalists, about 150, who pretty much every night read what's going on out in the world. And therefore, I'm actually a content aggregator. If I were to get a penny for every time I'd read a report from PwC, Deloitte or Accenture that says the boards of major global PLCs say talent is our greatest asset, I would be a very rich man. And yet still, kind of 20 or 30 years after we saw the first development in what I call professional recruitment, as we started to see around 1995 the growth of the internet powering changes in online recruitment, we still so often get it wrong. And it is staggering that things that people like Alan, myself and many other speakers have spoken about for so long still go wrong. So the mantra of the CEO is people are our greatest asset. So do we actually believe that? Do organisations really believe that? And do they really believe that at what I'll call the start of talent or attraction, which is that attraction phase? And my question is, if we believe that people are the most important asset of a company, what actually business are we in? Well, I think the job of an in-house recruiter, the job of an HR function, is to go and actually find the best talent, but not necessarily the cheapest talent. And as much as I concur with Alistair Cartwright's superb presentation at the start, that actually, yes, reducing cost per hire should be a key metric to building an in-house team or running any recruiting operation. Surely there has to be a balance between the cost of acquiring a candidate versus the cost of acquiring the right candidate. One of the things we used to talk to in the early days of online recruitment was that actually job boards would help you reduce the time to hire. Absolute tosh. It was a blatant lie that round about 98, 99 in the dot-com boom, we went out and peddled. In actual fact, in my humble opinion, 13, 14 years later, job boards have pretty much been responsible for delivering more traffic than most of you can actually handle, which in turn actually delivered the systems that we now need to handle it called ATSs, etc., etc., etc. People sit at home using my famous promiscuous digit, applying for jobs they haven't even read, and they still apply for it. Somebody tweeted earlier on about Glassdoor. Will it actually delay the recruitment process? I hope it does. I hope that people, before they hit the apply online button, go to Glassdoor and actually do a bit of research around that company. We've made everything become widgetized. Why do I like the job post? Because it's not actually about finding the cheapest talent. There are 13,000 recruitment consultancies in the UK. It is probably the largest talent pool you could ever connect in if you can find a smart and intelligent way to connect with it. Because what nobody wants are 13,000 recruitment consultants all chasing you saying, I want that next assignment, can I have that next job? So I think what I like about the job post is, and John Paul knows this, bizarrely enough I came up with a very similar product in 1996 when I was actually left Europe, went to live in the US, bit of a sabbatical, and actually built a site called Candex.com. And actually, Recruiter magazine, and Colin, one of the journalists from it, actually wrote about it back then. Completely screwed it up, despite having spent a fortune in the US market and spending 24 months travelling around the US at every trade show, which was a brilliant experience, didn't leave a lot of money left. And actually, I gave up on the idea. But I still believe that actually finding ways to connect with large talent pools is really intelligent. And my analogy is, I call it the ripple effect. You chuck a stone into a pond, and I love watching ripples. You never know what's in the outer ripple. That absolute perfect candidate could be in the outer ripple of a small recruitment consultancy you've never heard of, based up where I live in Cambridge, but unless you find smart, intelligent ways to scale and keep in touch and find out ways to connect with those people, you'll never hear about them. So I think it's a smart product. As I say, I have no shares, I have no investment, I have no involvement. I just really like the model. I think we are in the business of finding the best talent. I also think we're in the business of finding talent quickly. I know from coming from a sales background, every month I was without a good salesperson was costing me X amount of revenue. And if I had the choice of hiring somebody in 2 months and having them up and running another 2 months later versus waiting for 6 months for my in-house team to go and hire that person, I know what I'd say. Most of the in-house recruiters here will kick the hell out of me because I'm passionate about in-house recruitment. What I'm also passionate about is you have to find the right candidate for the job that your organisation needs to be done. And if a candidate costs 10,000 more but stays 5 years more and delivers you 5 years more return on investment, which is something we do not measure, but since I am a huge fan of Thomas More's Utopia and I'm at heart an idealist, it will never happen. But reality is, key metrics we should be measuring is quality of hire and return on investment of each hire. But then 20 years ago we talked about the candidate experience and people still can't sell it. So, something to think about. Over to JP.